Welcome to the Derek Smith Spiel. On today's episode, we will be talking about a fairly common situation that comes up in a social setting, and we will be going into a deep analysis of it. But before we get into that, if you like what you hear and you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, follow and hit the notification button for more. And of course, go on YouTube and subscribe to Dylan Smith Outdoors at Dylan Smith Outdoors 8459. But getting into it, like I said, this is a very common situation that shows up in day-to-day life in any social setting. And it's something simple, but it can turn awkward. It's holding doors. You don't believe that it can be awkward? Well, let me shatter your world. Let me show you how a simple thing can become awkward. Let's start from a point of view that we never really look at. It's the point of view when you're walking towards the door and someone's holding the door for you. When you see that someone is holding the door for you, especially when it's someone you don't know, immediately you're like, oh, I should rush to the door. I don't want them getting held up at the door. You're thinking, obviously, I should say thank you. Do I make small talk? Do I try and get to know this person? Are they trying to be nice? If it's a female, are they hitting on me, or are they just being nice? If it's an attractive female, should I hit on them, or would it again just be like one of those situations where they're just being nice and it's not really an effort to advance? So many things are going through your head and you're just thinking, I gotta rush to the door and say thank you. And really at the end of the day, that's all you need to do. But if you're an overthinker, there's a ton of things going through your head. I remember one day at college, the weather was really nice out. It was like a perfect day. Mid-afternoon, I was headed to lunch, and on my way to the dining center, I was walking towards the doors, and a girl held the door for me. She held the door, made eye contact, smiled, the whole works. I knew she was holding the door for me, and I was like, I smiled back. I was like, I gotta hurry to the door. On my way, I was pretty far away, which is something I'll get to later. I was pretty far away. There were still too many staircases I had to go up to get to the door that she was holding for me. I went up the first flight, perfect. Went every other step, kind of skipping my way up. My form was immaculate. Second staircase, not so well. I tripped on the stairs and nearly fell on my face. On the second stairs, I tripped forward, caught myself with my hands. She started laughing at me. Kind of everyone there who saw it started laughing. There was a group of 5 people, and I was there like, fuck. Damn. It was embarrassing. I was thinking of, making small talk. Maybe getting to know her, seeing if it was nice or if it was more of like an advancement thing. I'm sure it was just her being nice. But girl smiles at you and you get all excited. I got too excited, couldn't even make it up the stairs. She laughed, I made it to the door, I said thank you, and she was going the same way I was, but I just went the other way because I was too embarrassed. I couldn't handle the pressure, the eyes on me. I went the other way, went to the bathroom, gave it a good couple minutes so I knew the coast was clear and the flow of traffic of everyone who saw me embarrass myself in public was gone. Then I went to the dining hall and ate. It turned into a normal day. I told a couple people about this experience, but if it's happened to you, know that you're not alone. And it's okay. It's okay if you trip. In general. The only person who's made tripping cool is Jennifer Lawrence, really. It's a true art the way she was able to walk that off. But if you're like me, you can't walk it off, just go to the bathroom. Make sure everyone makes it through before you walk out. And it's like hitting the refresh button. But a couple of things that I brought up in there. One is, if they're holding the door, are they holding the door for me? Are they holding it for a friend? Were they holding it for someone ahead of me, but then they saw me and they're like, oh, I gotta hold the door for this person too, which is another thing that I'll get to later. But Yeah, when someone holds the door and smiles for you, that's like the only surefire way you know they're holding the door for me. And it's nice, this very nice gesture, very polite. Now, going to when you are holding the door, there's the first big thing is when you're walking, you kind of have the sixth sense of knowing when someone's behind you, and it's not a sixth sense, it's a combination of hearing them and feeling their eyes burning through the back of your skull. You know when someone's walking behind you, so you're walking towards the door, and you're like, first of all, should I hold the door for them? They're a stranger. I don't know them. Are they with a group of friends? Should I hold the door for them? What I found is if it's a glass door, if you can look and see the reflection of them behind you, hold the door. They're close enough. If you can't see the reflection, open the door and just keep walking, full steam ahead. Just in case they were close enough, but most likely they aren't if you can't see the reflection. If it's a wooden door, you're kind of screwed. Most doors open, and so you've got to open the door and then kind of glance over your shoulder, but don't make it too obvious. You really have to rely on your peripheral vision. Open the door, kind of glance over your shoulder, and if you see them, you can hold the door for them. If not, like I said, head down, keep going. The only situation where you're absolutely screwed and you have to hold the door is if you make eye contact. If you make eye contact, it's over. You gotta hold the door. Otherwise, you're an asshole who's just pretentious and in a rush. So those are the rules for when you should hold the door. I hope that helps because I know that is a dilemma, and especially people nowadays, the older generation, every generation thinks the next generation sucks, but the older generation now thinks that we're lazy and disrespectful, and damn it, I'm not going to let that happen. If I make eye contact with someone, I'm holding the door, and we as a community, I don't even know what generation I am. I'm 19, whatever that is. We need to prove the old, well, unks. We need to prove the unks wrong. There. I'm using the modern day lingo. And, it's too late. I already called them old. We need to prove all the old unks wrong. Getting stuck holding the door, man, that sucks too. Whether you're holding the door for oh, by the way, all those rules, if it's someone attractive behind you, throw the rules out the window, just hold the door. But anyway, getting stuck holding the door, that's another huge problem too. You hold the door for a couple people behind you, then you make eye contact with the next group back and the next group back. Before you know it, they're holding the door for over 90 seconds and you're like, oh my gosh. Like realistically, you're probably not in a rush, but still you don't want to be there just holding the door like a butler. Like it's tough. It's tough because the best way to hold a door is to grab the handle, pull, and hold. Like, I still kind of feel like an asshole if I walk in, pull the door open, and then pull, like, the side open where I'm, like, halfway walking, but I'm just holding the door for them to grab it. Like, no. If I'm holding the door, I'm holding it all the way. I'm holding it for them so they don't have to do anything. They can just cruise right by. I'm not doing the half hold thing. I end up doing it when in doubt. Like if you really don't know, that was what I was getting at earlier. If it's a wooden door, you've kind of got to do the half hold thing unless you can really hear the footsteps. It's a problem. But the side door, the benefit to that is you won't get caught holding the door. The downfall is you still kind of don't look great. It's really not the best look, but it's better than keep walking. So it is what it is. Another thing is when you hold the door for someone and they don't say thank you. If they're in conversation with their friend and they're walking through, I'll give them a pass, kind of, because it's easy to say like, oh, thank you, and right back into what you're talking about. I give them a half pass for that. But if I'm holding the door for someone and they don't say thank you, the first thing that goes through my mind is like, fuck you, and closing the door. Don't do that. I haven't done that. I would do it to one of my friends or someone I knew, but not to a stranger. Because then, again, you're the asshole, even though they're the ones who don't have decent manners. But man, I hope I'm not. Maybe I have. Let me know in the comments if I have anger issues. But when I hold the door for someone and they don't say thanks, it's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? I hope I clip their heel as I close the door. I do, but God, just really anytime people don't use manners, say thank you, say hi back, anything like that really tries my patience. But oh, holding the doors on staircases, it is a nightmare. One day I was walking to a class up a very shady staircase. It was gloomy, kind of dark, under a light that, like, it was a fluorescent light that just kind of flashed. There was a fly buzzing, really shady staircase. I was going up it, and again, all these dilemmas always happen when there's an attractive girl. An attractive girl is behind me, so of course I'm gonna hold the door. I went to hold the door, and I smiled, said hi, and she was like, "Oh, I'm going upstairs, but thank you." It's like, damn it. I didn't even think about that being a possibility until that time. Now I'm like self-conscious opening the door on stairways and holding it for people. It's a serious problem. Be aware that that is an issue. Sometimes people are going to a different floor, and when in doubt, hold the door because it's not a big deal. It just feels like a big deal when they laugh in your face, which is what happened. But it's just part of the trials and tribulations of holding doors. Being a gentleman. They say chivalry's dead. No. I hold the door for people who aren't even walking through it. Just part of the game. Another thing is holding the door for that has an emergency alarm. Like if it's held open too long, it has an emergency alarm. That opens a whole new world of problems too, because that's stressful. Maybe you see someone carrying a huge Amazon box and they're far away, but you're like, I'm going to hold the door for them. So you hold the door for them, and then as soon as they get like near the door, you just hear the beep, 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 and you think like they're going to think I'm an intruder. They're going to think I'm holding the door for someone else to let me in. That like emergency alarms are going off. It sounds like you're playing Among Us back in 2020. It again, all these things that I'm saying, they aren't big deals, but they add up and make a very simple process kind of complicated. Maybe I just hold the door so much that some people have only run into some of these problems. I'm here to let you know and shine light on all the possible problems that could happen while you're just trying to be polite. The moral of this story by the end of it, when you're listening, might be don't be polite. Just go on with your day, be an asshole, be selfish. Maybe. That definitely is easier, without a doubt. But for those of you who want to take the high road, be a polite person, this could be what happens to you. So keep an eye out for all these issues and just do your best. Man, another thing, I was walking back to my dorm room one time, and I saw this. It was late. It was a Saturday. I was in one of my friend's dorm rooms. I was coming back, and there was this group of probably 6 people outside, and it was a cold day. It was kind of on the tail end of winter in upstate New York, so there wasn't snow, but it was bitter cold. Again, like probably 12:30 a.m. And I was walking to the side door. I go to the side door because no one's there, I'm not going to lie. It saved me a few steps, but I really just did it because no one was there. I could just walk up in silence, sneak into my dorm room, go to bed. This time there were 6 people huddled outside the door. They weren't smoking anything. They weren't drinking either, but their eyes were dilated. You could just see like they were somewhere else. I don't know what planet they were on, but it was not Earth. And I walked by them. They didn't say anything, so I just thought they were having a meeting outside. Generally, people smoke in that area anyway. I opened the door, and then all six of them like rushed over, jumped over to the door. No words were exchanged. No, nothing. I opened the door, and they just rushed over. Everyone got in. Except one person. There was one person. They didn't rush over because they were in the back, shaking and what is this called? Rubbing their hands together and blowing in them. They were obviously freezing. They were in shorts and a t-shirt. I don't know what they were thinking. And he could barely walk. It was bad. I don't know what he did that night, but he could barely walk. He was limping to the door and shaking like crazy. And he got inside and he got to the stairs and he went to take a step up and just about fell backwards. I kind of like was there. I stepped like behind him to try and brace his fall, but luckily one of his friends knew the situation. They grabbed them. There was a friend on each side of him holding his arms, a friend in front, a friend in back, and they were escorting this guy up the stairs. I got no clue what happened, but for lack of a better term, he was fucked up. He was fucked up. Bad. Bad. Like, it couldn't have even been fun for him. Couldn't have even been fun. Another thing, like, didn't even mean to hold the door. Ended up holding the door and making sure this guy didn't fall down the stairs. Another person, we're past the door stuff now. Yeah, past the door stuff. I was just thinking there was another time I was in the lounge. Me and my friends generally hang out in the lounge if there isn't anything going on. If there isn't anything else going on, we're in the lounge watching a movie. And we've gotten some shade for it. There was this guy, because one night it was like a Friday night, and we didn't have anything to do. We're under 21. We can't bar hop. We were just in the lounge watching a movie. Can't remember what movie. Something. This group of three guys were walking in solo, and they walked by. They looked over at us. They were like, you could just hear it through the windows. They were like, look at these fucking losers in the lounge on a Friday night. I barely heard it. I heard a mumble. I didn't know what they said. One of my friends was over there, snapped his head back, stared at them going up the stairs. And then he looked over at me and he was like, you fucking hear those guys? And I said, not really, what'd they say? And he repeated what was said. And he was like, yeah. Meanwhile, they're in the same position as us. They're coming in solo after going out partying. I don't see any girls with them. Didn't look like they were drunk. They're the fucking losers. They went out and didn't even have a good time. He had a good point. Then again, that might be just the hardest cope we had ever because we were in the lounge on a Friday, but we were having fun. We made great memories in that lounge. Great memories. Another time in the lounge, there was a guy and a girl. This guy was not solo. I was on the third floor. He was too. He was going up the third floor with a girl, and she was struggling up the stairs. Not as bad as the guy who was shivering when I held the door for him, but she was struggling up those stairs. And she took a couple steps up the stairs. He was beside her. She was moving at a snail's pace up to the third floor. And then she got up there and vanished. We didn't think much of it. We finished the movie. There was probably a half an hour left and went our separate ways. I went up to the third floor and I heard someone it had to be projectile vomit, but it wasn't just puking, like it was scream puking. It was the most graphic puking I have ever heard. I just imagined someone like throwing up everything they had in them. Stuff that shouldn't even be coming out of their mouth was probably coming out of their mouth. It was like there were like tears and sobbing and and then you'd hear and you could tell it was a girl. I didn't peek in, but I knew. I just knew it was the girl walking up the stairs. Man, that night didn't go how either of them planned. It's terrible. I could hear them from my room, just kind of far away from the bathroom. Yikes. But yeah, that's all I've got. Don't party too hard. Keep in mind, if you make eye contact with someone, you've got to hold the door. If not, wait till you see if you can see the reflection. If it's a wooden door or something, you can't see the reflection. Do the half in, half hold pose and see if you can make eye contact with anybody. If not, keep going. Yeah, that's all I've got. That's all I've got here. Like I said, if you like what you heard, if you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, follow and hit the notification button for more. And last but not least, like and subscribe to Dylan Smith Outdoors at Dylan Smith Outdoors 8459. Thanks for listening.